Trying to figure out a way to get you guys the beer so we don't kind of completely trash the schedule. But I want to start off by thanking you for coming out tonight on a school night. I know a lot of you are running companies and you got a lot going on, so thank you for being here. I want to thank Techstars specifically. I've got a lot to thank Techstars for. When I was first asked by the people at Startup Next to launch the Startup Next program in Boston, the very first call I made was to the Techstars office here in Boston. And I did that for a variety of reasons. Mostly because I'd mentored in the program, I understand the quality of the program. I've been very, very impressed by the slow and steady approach that Techstars has been able to execute over many years as they've expanded to a variety of different cities and the leadership that they provided, right? So my very first meeting was with Rosa Hugh, who's an operations manager, and Evelyn Bucharski, who may or may not still be here. But Techstars is also kind enough to let us use their offices to run the Startup Next program. So I want to thank Ty, who's executive director here, for his generosity and for Techstars' generosity. And then I want to just thank my team. I want to thank Chuck Zverk. I want to thank Sean O'Brien. I want to thank Mike Flynn for their involvement in helping us launch Startup Next. So I'm going to start off with a couple of questions. How many of you have applied to Startup Next? You've actually applied. Raise your hands high. So we've got about maybe 7 or 8 teams at this point. Okay. How many of you are running a company today and are looking to get into an accelerator? Cool. How many of you are running a company today and are in the active process of raising money? Okay, cool. I guess that's redundant, right? All right, and then how many of you will pitch tonight? How many of you hate pizza? All right. So what we're going to do tonight, very, very simply stated, is I'm going to take you through about a 20-minute overview of the the Startup Next Boston program and what we look to do as we start to wind down. Our application process has been extended until Sunday. Okay? I have been blown away with the quality of the applicants, way beyond anything we expected, given that this is the maiden voyage of the Startup Next Boston program. Okay? So over the course of the evening, we'll spend some time describing the program and doing it very interactively, answering questions. Those of you who want to pitch, we're going to give you some real-time feedback. And then for those of you who want to meet one-on-one with myself and Chuck and Sean and Mike, we would love to have that chance to get to know you a little bit better, understand what you're trying to do, and really have a chance to connect in person before we wrap this up, okay? So all that being said, just 2 seconds on my background. Engineer, worked in Silicon Valley long time ago when Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard were still running HP. B-School, did the McKinsey strategy thing for a few years. Wasn't my most enjoyable career experience. I'm not a consigliere, I'm a builder. And so I came back to Boston and I was involved in the formation of 5 enterprise software startups over 25 years. A couple of the engineering tech space, one in the marketing tech space, a couple in the data center space. And it's what I've loved most about my engineering background was to be able to apply it in the formation of a variety of startups. Was lucky enough that 2 went public on the NASDAQ. All 5 were acquired. 1 by IBM, 1 by Oracle, 1 by AT&T, 1 by Symantec, 1 by Iron Mountain. Okay? So I've had the opportunity to see the way this works when it's supposed to work in a certain way. Okay? For the last 20 years or so, I've also had the privilege of living a double life. No, I'm not a double agent. I'm a professor and an entrepreneur. And there aren't that many people that feel comfortable straddling both of those sides of the world. Okay? So I love mentoring. I've been active as a Techstars mentor from day 1, year 1, many other programs around the world, not just in the United States, but literally all around the world. And so I love the opportunity to connect dots for people and to bring a variety of networks together. I'm very actively involved in social entrepreneurship. I'm a community impact fellow for Open IDEO. And Open IDEO, for those of you who don't know it, is taking the IDEO platform in an open innovation context and working with people who create specific challenges and use the whole process of IDEO's design methodology to arrive at really well thought through solutions. So that's something else I've been up to. And I've had the privilege of doing a lot of, not just working with startups, but I spend a lot of time as a consultant and as an advisor both to governments who are building startup clusters in their various regions, whether it be at a provincial level, a city level, a country level, and with large corporations that are trying to understand how to stay more innovative. So I have a faculty appointment at the Technical University of Denmark, which is a corporate venturing program where senior executives from large European companies come in with new business ideas to try to create growth on what are typically extremely old and slow-moving platforms, right? So these are all different pieces that I enjoy doing. So Up Global is the parent organization. So how many of you have been to a Startup Weekend event? So if you know Startup Weekend, you know Up Global. How many of you subscribe to Startup Digest, which is one of the better curated startup newsletters here in town? So if you subscribe, you know Up Global. Up Global is the partnership that came together between Steve Case's Startup America, right? Steve Case, the founder of America Online, sold that company to Time Warner, became an extremely wealthy man, and his whole life's mission has to fund and cultivate the startup community, not just in the US, but worldwide. The second partner is Google for Entrepreneurs. And so together, this is a nonprofit organization that is bringing a variety of different startup-oriented experiences and training programs and content to the world. Startup Next is their newest and most recent product. It's about a year old, and I'll talk more about the success, but it very quickly went from being just a US-based product to a global product, okay? But this is the first time that we're launching it here in Boston, okay? Now, it may sound cliche, and I may be preaching to the choir, but I truly mean this. It has never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, and I think a lot of you know that in your hearts, okay? Now, what is remarkable, I'm going to be leading a discussion on the future of work at an event with a couple of senior executives from Google. And in a brainstorming session this morning, I learned something fascinating. In 1989, only 6% of the US workforce were considered to be self-employed or running micro businesses. Today, not even 20 years later, 15 years later, 50% of the US economy is self-employed or working in some kind of entrepreneurial endeavor. Now, we all know these are not necessarily tech startups, okay? The vast majority are local businesses, okay? But all entrepreneurs share a certain journey, okay? There's a lot of differences, whether you're building a hardware company or a marketing tech company, or if you're working on something that is in the med tech space or the medical device space. But all of us need to be inspired, right? It's an irrational human act to start a company, okay? It's irrational. Satisfying, but irrational, okay? There's a tremendous amount of knowledge out there, and our ability to go out and immerse ourselves in our target market's problem and to have deep empathy and understanding is a critical part of success, okay? Finding a co-founder or a set of co-founders that you have great alignment of vision and values with is a critical part of the success. If you've never read Noah Wasserbaum's book, Founders' Dilemmas, it's an incredible book based on interviews with 5,000 founders, very worthwhile. And of course, at some point you decide that you are now ready to start a company and you incorporate, you put your operating plan in place, your option plan, and you're off and running. And then the path between step 4 and step 5 is infinite. It can take on any one of a billion permutations, okay? But the important point is when you get out of the gate, just like a sprinter running a mile, you want to get out of the gate quickly and cleanly. And an important part of what Startup Next is all about is to help you get out of the gate as cleanly and as quickly as you can, okay? 73, the number of privately held companies today that have valuations of $1 billion or more, okay? Remarkable. Back in the dot-com era, that number was in the 20s. So there's no question that there's a lot of money chasing great companies and great ideas. But I'm hoping that none of you are doing this only for the money. Because if you're doing it only for the money, you are in it for the wrong reasons. On the very first night, Bill Warner, who is a legendary local mentor and angel investor, will be talking about startup from the heart and the importance for all of you as entrepreneurs to do something that you are deeply passionate and convicted about, right? That's phase 0, okay? So many of you are working on a dream, okay? And the way that you want to express that in a very creative sense is you are starting companies, okay? And many of you are very willing to make the trade-off, which says, I don't want to work 40 hours. That really sucks. I really want to work 80 hours, right? And we all know the 40 hours that sucks is the prison sentence that's punching a clock and working for the man. And we'd rather work 80 hours a week on something that we truly love and care about, right? With all the emotional insanity that goes with that journey, as opposed to the 40 hours, which is like, shit, I got to get up and go do that again? That doesn't sound really fun. Can I call in sick today, right? So this is what we live for. We live to want to do something 80 hours a week because it's play, okay? But let's be clear, guys and ladies, tech startups are freaking hard, okay? They're insanely hard. And the odds are not very, very pretty, but they're what you got to go in with your eyes wide open, okay? So Shakar Ghosh, former local entrepreneur, now a lecturer at Harvard, 2,000 companies that raised between at least $1 million over a 7-year period. 1 out of 1,000 companies gets funded by VCs, okay? Only 60% survive to age 3. Only 11% are acquired. Now that was in 2010. The number of new startups being formed because of all of the accelerators and all of the seed stage funds and everything going on is only more. So the competitive intensity in any given sector has only increased. And I don't share this with you to scare you. I share this with you factually because it's important to understand that you are embarking on a very arduous journey. And if I was embarking on an arduous journey, I would want to be completely prepared, okay? And so, if you're here tonight, and there's one company that's not here tonight, but it embodies what I believe to be the essence of what's going to allow for a successful startup. We have a team from Holland who basically called up and said, we want to be in your program, we're willing to come here and live in Boston for 6 weeks because that's how bad we want it, right? They want to be in Techstars, they know they're not ready, but they're willing to come to the States for 6 weeks, pick up everything to come, right? So this is no place to dream small. And so how many of you consider yourselves to be unreasonable men or women? Okay, unreasonable? Cool, what's your first name?
Joe.
Joe, I love that, okay? You all need to be unreasonable men and women if you're going to try to beat those odds, okay? So most of you are young, a couple of you we won't say anything about, right, buddy? Yep, exactly. You know who you are, right? But in order to do that, right, so this picture embodies everything to me, okay? Many of you may not know how famous this photograph is, but this is, at the time, the recently awarded gold medal boxer in the 1960 Olympics, a young man named Cassius Clay out of Louisville, Kentucky, who he was brash, he was vocal, and he was extraordinarily gifted, and he was very smart. And this man lying on the mat here didn't think he'd be lying on the mat in this mat. His name was Sonny Liston. His nickname was the Bear, and he was one tough dude. And unfortunately, this is Blockbuster, and that's Netflix, okay? This is every established company that looks across the aisle at a startup and says, you know what? They're nobody, okay? There's nothing they got on us, okay? We got all these resources, we've got all this momentum, we've got all these customers, we're good. Screw those guys, okay? Well, let me tell you, every time a company is arrogant enough to say that, they become Sonny Liston. And I will tell you right now, having done 5 startups, there is nothing more enjoyable than knocking out Sonny Liston. Nothing, okay? That's what it's all about, right? To have a game plan in the ring. Now, we all know Michael Tyson, probably not the most articulate man we'll ever meet, okay? A rather storied and colorful past. But he did say something quite true. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Now, Dwight Eisenhower, the head of the commander of all Allied forces in World War II, said it a little bit more articulately in there. but it's the same thing. And we all know, regardless of how smart you are, no matter how well thought through your plan is, I guarantee you, you will pivot again and again and again. And it's your attitude in the pivot that is the basis for whether you will succeed or fail. If you go in with a learning mindset, you will continue to succeed. You will fail forward. You will apply the principles of lean, startup, and customer development and design thinking, and you will succeed. Okay? So, Startup Next is about helping you get in shape for that journey. That's really what we're all about. Okay? So, Silicon Valley, we've all been there, right? Yes, it's a place. Okay, I'm right. You caught me. It's a physical location. But more than anything today, it's a mindset. Because no matter where I travel in the world, we see people that are creating startup clusters and they are adopting the best practices that all of us in the room know very well. Okay? And we want to bring that best practices approach to pre-acceleration here in Boston to complement what they're doing here at Techstars and some of the other great accelerators we have. Okay? So what Startup Next is, it's actually a 6-week program because there's an orientation involved. It's a 6-week program that will allow you to either increase the maturity of your idea and the validation of your idea and get you ready to be accepted into a top-tier accelerator. So we have placed 10 companies into Techstars. We've placed companies into 500 startups. We've placed companies into RGA, which is the hardware accelerator powered by Techstars in New York City, into Acceleprise. So the program has gotten out of the gate very cleanly. Okay? And we're helping to create a better applicant for top-tier accelerators, right? And we all know that Techstars and its partners are rung zero on the venture capital ladder these days, right? This is where you start to get access to angel networks and capital networks because of the syndication power that accelerators like Techstars have, okay? It's getting more competitive. When I started mentoring at Techstars back about 6-7 years ago, we were in Central Square, and the entrepreneurs were young. It was mostly just an idea. See, we're just handing out 6-packs now, okay? If you come to Startup Next, this is going to be a common thing, okay? We're going to be handing out 6-packs all the time, all right? Today, that's different, right? All of the accelerators are accepting more mature companies, typically with some significant customer traction, typically with some revenue, and typically having raised money. So the flight to quality has increased. The path is getting more challenging for younger, less experienced people. Okay? We're going to do your traditional program. Okay? On the first night, we're going to do some orientation. You're going to hear from a couple of entrepreneurs that have gone through accelerators, including a couple I mentored right here in Techstars. And we're going to hear from Bill Warner, who's going to take us through his startup from the heart philosophy. And of course, every single night you're going to pitch. And every single night you're going to get one-on-one mentoring. Okay? The very first night, we're going to talk about customer discovery. And I have a leader from IDEO, the world-class innovation consultancy. And I have Dan Sullivan, who is the CEO and founder of both WeFunder and Crowdly. Dan specializes in customer advocacy. On the second night, we're going to work on market sizing and analysis. And I've got someone who's a leader in one of the top tech-oriented market research firms that I've used in my past in my startups that's done a great job. On the third night, we're going to talk about minimum viable product. I've got Chris Quintero in from Bolt. And I'll take you through some of the other mentors. On the fourth night, we're going to go through product market fit. Okay? And then on the last night, we're going to take you through financing. And I'm going to go through all the mentors a little bit later on. Okay? And then when we're done with that, we're going to have a demo day. So we're going to create a demo day so that all of you have a chance to get in front of all of the significant accelerators, as well as all the significant angels and seed stage investors. And by the way, every single accelerator in town has become a supporter and a partner. So we have Assad Butt from Learn Launch. Any EdTech companies in the room? Okay. So Assad Butt from Learn Launch will be a mentor in the program. Chris Quintero from Bolt will be a mentor. Who's building hardware technology, okay? So we've got Bolt involved. We've got Beta Spring involved. Beta Spring from Providence, Rhode Island. Of course, Techstars is involved as well. So we're looking to make sure that you have exposure to all of the leading accelerators in town, and that you actually get to meet some of the principals of those accelerators so that you can begin to build a deep working relationship with them over a period of time. Okay? So, how many of you are engineers? Okay, so this is always harder for our engineers, right? This is my friend who believes in the beauty of his child, his technology. Okay? And as far as he's concerned, that person, that child should do no longer. It's a love story, but it doesn't have a very happy ending. Okay? And the problem is with so many of our technical founders who are creating companies, especially those of you who are deep science-based or taking technology out of labs, okay? There's this belief that what you've come up with is so perfect, so beautiful, and you, God forbid, someone actually criticizes it, right? The antithesis of that is to understand the mantra of Techstars, which is, quote-unquote, get out of the building. It sounds simple, but it's hard to do. More importantly, it's important to understand that you put yourself in the shoes of your customer, and you understand the journey that those customers have embarked upon. Okay? And you are deeply empathetic about where there are pain points in the journey. So I love to use this XY map, and although it may look a bit jumbled, it's very straightforward. How important is the problem to your customer, and how satisfied are they with substitutes? Okay? I've met a lot of very, very, very smart MIT PhDs that worked on problems that were technically elegant, but they were down here because they never took the big sock off their head, and they never actually went into the market and asked the market with some level of humility, is this problem important? And it's a remarkable thing to sit with a couple of very bright MIT PhDs in a focus group and have customer after customer say, you know what, that problem just isn't that important. It's below the number 10 on my list, and I don't have budget for anything more than 3. And although they may have PhDs from MIT, there was something lacking. It was called humility and curiosity. Okay? So you want to be working on problems that are important, but you also want to be aware of the landscape, and you don't want to be working on problems that have many, many competitors in the space unless you bring something remarkably unique. Right? So you want to be working in an area where it's deeply important and very much underserved, an extreme opportunity. Okay? That's really where you want to target your efforts. Okay? And again, in Japanese, genshi genbutsu. You cannot be sure of anything unless you go and see it for yourself. So I've got a guy named Quinn in the back of the room. Quinn, raise your hand. So last week we did a meetup at Bull. And my friend Quinn, who's developed the customer engagement platform, or the beginnings of one, got up and pitched. And it became clear to all of us in the room that within 30 seconds, Quinn had gone into this market. He had completely immersed himself in his customer's problem. Okay? Regardless of the questions you would ask him, he understood from the perspective of the customer. And there is no substitute for that. This is where all the power of your startup comes from. You go out, if you're not curious enough to go out and find out for yourself, you're working on the wrong startup. You need to be burning with curiosity and passion to solve that problem. And if you don't have it, then you think about something else. It's that simple, okay? So, in my world, there are 3 key pillars. One pillar is what we're working on desirable? Have we mapped the customer journey? Are we using design methodology based on our empathy, based on that map I just showed you, the XY map? Do customers really want this? Or do we just speculate that they want it? Do we hope that they want it? This is human-centric design. This is the world of IDEO. The second piece is, can we build this as a viable, sustainable business long-term? Now, in the world of profit, it's very simple. Can we get to cash flow break-even, and can we drive a reasonable margin for our investors and get them venture returns? But some of us are working on social ventures, and a social venture has a double or triple bottom line. So there's a slightly different metric. But is it viable? And third, of course, because there's no business in the world that's not tech-enabled today. At least I don't think there is. Okay? Is the technology feasible? Will the technology scale? Will the technology do what's required of it, right? And we need to put all 3 of those pieces together, right? So when you're thinking holistically about designing your startup, designing your project, these are the things that I want you to think about, and these are the things we're going to focus on most heavily within the program, okay? And of course, you're going to focus on lean startup, okay? And if you've never seen this book, right, for those of you who don't like to read, which I know is most of us these days, okay, a very, very good summary book from O'Reilly, right? Everybody knows O'Reilly, they're very, very prolific, is something called the Lean series. And it just summarizes all of these classic books, Running Lean, right, which was Ash Mariah, where the Lean Value Canvas comes from, Lean Analytics, from Ben Yaskovich and Alistair Kroll, how to apply analytics to your business, Lean Branding, Lean UX, right? Lean Customer Development, just a very simple, easy, quick read that really familiarizes you with all of the underlying principles of Lean and all of the derivatives of it. Okay, so certainly we're going to rely on Lean. Okay, and we're going to spend an awful lot of time working on Lean Value Canvas and Business Value Canvas, Business Model Canvas, from the mindset of this is a hypothesis until proven otherwise. Okay, we hope it's true. We just don't know, and until we go on the market, we just don't know. Okay, strategic partners are critical. Okay, strategic partners allow you to punch above your weight class. Okay, so for a young startup to go into, especially if you're an enterprise startup, if you're trying to sell into a data center, if you're trying to sell into a large organization and you try to go in on your own, it's very, very difficult. So an important part of this process is strategic partnerships, okay? And increasingly building a marketing machine, or at least the beginnings of building a marketing machine using digital and social. Because you can't afford to do it any other way. And what I'm most struck by is the number of enterprise startups today that come to me thinking they're going to do the old NFL 26-city Salesforce thing. And I can tell you right now, you walk into a venture capital office today, and they ask you about your sales model. Well, we're just going to hire a bunch of direct sales guys. That meeting is over now. Okay? If you do not understand innovative sales models, low cost of sales, zero cost of sales models, getting funded becomes a real challenge. Okay? It's going to be a very important part of what we'll work on. Okay? And ultimately, you're in a position where you are able to understand enough about your customer that you feel like you're doing this. Okay? And if you've done your work, if you've done your empathy work, if you've done your design work, okay, you're satisfying needs that no one has really ever understood before. And it should be that easy. Okay? Of course, pitching is going to be very important, right? This is a Techstars demo day. Okay? This is the penultimate for a lot of people, right, when it comes to kind of getting out of the accelerator. So of course, we're going to work on pitches. You're going to pitch every single night. And you're going to get feedback every single time. Okay? All right. So, and then of course, money, right? Nobody cares about money in this room, right? You're all here for the pizza, right? So, again, we all want to believe that, you know, the mythology of the venture capitalist, right? We all want to raise venture. But as I said, one out of every 1,000 companies raises venture money. So it's unrealistic to think for most of us that that is going to be a part of our experience. It doesn't have to be. There's huge amounts of money under the surface, whether you come into a Techstars and you get seed funded here, whether you work with a lot of organized angel groups in town. If those of you who are coming from other countries, you all know how generous your governments can be in terms of subsidies and tax credits and grants, right? There's no dishonor in raising money from your government, okay? None. Any clean tech companies here? Anybody doing clean tech? Okay? And Greentown, by the way, will be joining us as well. I forgot to mention them. So obviously that's an area where there's a lot more government money flowing. Okay? So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about all of the options that you have available to you, right? So on our very last night, we're going to have Mike Norman, who's one of the co-founders of WeFunder. If you guys know WeFunder, WeFunder is an equity crowdfunding platform. They've got a very significant number of users. They're based here and in the Valley. So we're going to hear from Mike. We're going to hear from Mike Geis, who for many years was on the staff of Highland Capital Partners. We're going to hear from Jessica McClear, who's a very active angel investor both in Golden Seeds and in Launchpad. I've got an open invitation to someone from the IBM Corporate Venture Capital Group. Okay? So we're going to try to give you a sense of all of the options open to you when it comes to getting funded. And we're going to try to help you understand the way that angel networks syndicate deals with each other. Right? So if you look at this slide, you'll see that Alex Ohanian is considered the most networked angel in the US right now. And that he has the most regular follow-on VC investors, including new enterprise associates out of Silicon Valley and DC. Google Ventures and First Round Capital. Max Levchin, PayPal Mafia, Highland, SV Angel, and Founders Fund. Right? Benioff, who's the CEO of Salesforce.com, does a lot of co-investing with First Round Capital, Founders Fund, and Greylock. So you start to see the way that money flows. You start to see the way that different investors partner together on projects, right? We want to give you as much insight as possible. Because just like it's important for you to find the right co-founders, it's important for you to find the right investor. Not any investor. Not anybody willing to hand you a check. But investors who get who you are, get who your founders are, get what your business stands for, and have the ability to really change the trajectory of your company based on the networks that they come in. Okay? Mentors and advisors, right? So I just came back on the train last night from New York, and the Amtrak, Acela magazine, why mentors matter. Okay? Now in this case, it's ballet. We're not going to teach you a lot of ballet here. Okay? Maybe a little bit of how to dance with investors, but not a whole lot. But mentors matter greatly. And everybody saw this incredible movie, The King's Speech, right? So Dave Michelia, who was recently named 30 under 30 by Forbes, will be one of our mentors. He's the CEO of the TAP Lab. So Bill Warner will join us. Bill was the founder of Avid Technology. Avid went on to win both an Academy Award and an Emmy Award for video editing. Bill is an MIT PhD, hardware designer, probably the most prolific angel here in the city of Boston. Owen Johnson is one of the managing directors of BetaSpring. BetaSpring is in Providence. It's Techstars powered accelerator. Was ranked number 11 in the US amongst all accelerators. Assad, managing director of the Learn Launch Accelerator. Chris Quintero, who was an investor with Bolt VC in the hardware co-working space. Rafi Chamakian, a Canadian entrepreneur who recently sold the company to Dell for $900 million, now working on his next one. Imran Koja, who is a business interactive designer with IDEO. Deanne Sullivan, who I mentored here at Techstars, the founder of AppsWell, Crowdly, and WeFunder, very serially focused. Mike Norman from WeFunder. Jessica McClear, focused on angel investing these days. She has a health tech background, and she's active in both Golden Seeds and in Launchpad. Michael Geist from Highland Capital Partners, now the founder of a company called Big Think. Very, very good at helping you find technical talent. Okay. Bill Bra, who runs the Venture Development Center at UMass. Nick Parolo. Is Nick Parolo here tonight? No? Chuck, talk about Nick's background for a second. I know you're a big fan of his.
I think Nick sent me a text last week. He couldn't
okay.
make it, but Nick leads VistaPrint's mobile development team.
Yeah.
He's also co-founder of an app called Scholly.
Yeah.
Helps students find scholarships to go to college. It was just on Shark Tank 3 weeks ago. So he's the #1 downloaded app, on the App Store and Google Play for the last 3 weeks. So yeah, he's
cool.
Pretty good technical individual.
Thank you, Chuck. And then Chris Neal, who is a world-class market research guy for the tech space, right? And we're adding more mentors, but this will give you a feel for some of the people. And I'm a very big believer that you don't bring in celebrity mentors. And I want to have a nice balance between more senior, more mature mentors, people that have been there and done that a bunch of times, and those who are maybe a step or two ahead of you, right? That are younger, that you can relate to, that are still running companies. Now, of course, having them engaged because they're running their own companies is more of a challenge. But I want to have younger people in the program as well so that you can talk to people that are working on problems today just like you are, okay? All right, so again, I will assert this one more time. There's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. The amount of capital, the different sources of capital, the mentorship opportunities that are available to you are unprecedented. Right? I'm coming over today in a Lyft car, and I'm looking at a bus, and there's a startup advertisement on the side of a bus, right? When I was your age, for most of you, to start a company meant you were a bona fide geek. Okay, you were a member of the Geek Club. It was a very esoteric world, those of us who were startup founders and early stage tech people 20 years ago, right? We would have never advertised on the side of a bus. But this has gone mainstream, right? We've got this awesome show called Silicon Valley on HBO that I get a huge kick out of, okay? The interactive part of the program at South by Southwest has taken over the rest of the event. I mean, it's gone huge. And it would be a privilege for myself and Chuck and Sean and Mike and all of our mentors to have a chance to work with some of you to realize your own dream, okay? And one of the things that I get a kick out of as a professor and as a mentor is helping people realize their goals, helping people see something that they want to aspire, and being able to provide them some level of support to help them get there. It's a very satisfying thing to be a part of, right? So that being said, let me answer some questions, and then we're going to do some pitches. Okay, so what questions can I answer, guys, about tonight's, the program I just described? Yeah, please.
How much is it?
How much is it? All right, give me that 5 there. All right, now that's a practical guy. Okay, so let me say two things. What it doesn't include, there's no equity involved. This is a nonprofit. Okay, what we're charging is $350 per founder, max of $700. You bring 3, 4, 5 founders. Now, why are we charging any money at all? We're charging money because we have to feed you. We're running it at nighttime. Okay, but if you do the math, it's going to work out to be about $1 an hour, including food. Okay, so if you can't justify that, I've done a really shitty job today, okay? Really shitty job. But let me also add one thing. Beyond the traditional program, I'm working very closely with the folks at Up Global, and there's a couple of additional elements I'm going to layer onto this program that will also be free of charge. And they will be optional, and they will be weekend-based. One will be Bill Warner has agreed to do a half-day or even a full-day workshop on startups from the heart to make sure that we don't just cover it in a very superficial way on night one. And anybody who's involved in this program and doesn't go for that, you're crazy, okay? I learn from Bill every single chance I get. The second thing I want to do is going to sound a little bit more esoteric, but I promise you it's very effective. Who today would consider themselves to be a fan of Legos? Anybody like Legos? Why do you guys, look around the room, that's a lot of people, right? Now, I've been to Denmark about 50 times. I teach at the Technical University of Copenhagen, and Lego was a client of ours at this school, at this executive program I taught. As you might know, they went through a near-death experience about 14, 15 years ago. And they started looking at other ways to apply Lego blocks. And one of the things they came up with was something called Lego Serious Play. And they partnered with the very prestigious European MBA program or business school, INSEAD, and they discovered that when adults are playing, a lot of the barriers that inhibit creativity fall away. And so they started using Lego Serious Play as a way to have senior executives begin to problem solve. So I started doing facilitation in San Francisco with a colleague of mine from Microsoft, facilitating business model generation workshops, typically 5 or 6 hour workshops, where teams come in and they're given a huge box of Legos, typically no more than 16 or 18 people because it's highly interactive, and they're asked to construct different elements of their business model using Legos. And wouldn't you know, every single time, several teams come back and say, holy shit, I've been working on this project for 3 years and I never thought of that before, right? Massive insights and transformation happens. And so I want to bring this to the East Coast. We're always a step behind California. It's the way it is, okay? That's okay, all right? The cool stuff wants to wait till spring anyway. It's been too cold here. So we're going to run that as well for a weekend. Right? One of the weekends we're going to make that an optional program. So all of that will be yours for no more than $350 per founder, up to 2 founders. Third founder gets to eat free. Okay? That cover it? Cool. All right. Who else? No equity, right? I said no equity. We don't take equity. All right. What other questions can I answer? Yeah.
You can touch on royalty-based finance.
Touch on?
Royalty-based finance.
Royalty-based. We certainly can touch on royalty-based financing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a program. Oh, by the way, we're only taking 7 companies. Okay, so there's only 7 companies that we can accept. Okay. A very important part is to work on the issues that are specific to your startup. So if royalty-based financing is specific or important to you, we will, through our mentorship program, make sure that we spend a lot of time on royalty-based financing, okay? And of course, we're going to try to educate you on all financing models, including all new and the most current financing models, and clearly royalty-based financing is taking on more importance. So the answer would be yes.
It's just, well, like my startup right now, I've already got a proven SaaS model. So I don't have to like wait on the term sheet. I
Yeah.
can still get it. I go pretty much factor
Okay.
on the top line on the growth of it and get a term loan.
Okay, sure.
So the term loan is better than a note.
Okay, it may or may not be, right? It depends on what your goals are.
There's
Depends
no
on.
warrants.
Okay, that's cool.
But what I'm trying to say is like maybe there's something like I didn't see it in there.
Well, I'm trying to go at a very high level, so
for
I'm
sure.
not, but certainly if it's a relevant financing option, we want to cover everything, right? We want to make sure you know what all of your options are, because every startup is different. Every startup's financing needs are different, and I want to make sure that we cover the waterfront, but then we go deep in the one-on-one mentoring sessions each week. Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
I know it's kind of early in the program, but do you have one company that kind of jumps out at you as the superstar that you kind of push through the startup next program that's going on to do other things since?
You know what? I will tell you that so the question was, do we have some companies that we would consider to be superstars? I think the best way to answer that is to direct you to the startup next.co website, where they feature 8 or 9 different companies that have gone through. But let me also say this, I went out to the demo day. They have a semi-annual demo day, right? So I was in Palo Alto maybe 3 weeks ago now. And it was the semi-annual demo day for Startup Next for all companies that came through from last June through December. And out of the 15 companies that were selected, pretty much every single one had been accepted into an accelerator, and many of them were in the process of raising money or had raised money, right? So if you go to their website, I don't know if those newer companies have been factored in, but if I would encourage all of you, if you want to go look at some of the testimonials and some of the companies who have had experiences, I would encourage you to go to the website, and right on the homepage, you'll see maybe 7 or 8 companies there. Okay, and I know there's a handful that have raised a lot of money. Okay, I just can't tell you that I remember exactly who they are right now. It's a great question, though. Yeah, please.
So I'm in B school right now, and so I'm wondering do I need to have a current working startup to
You do.
get part of this program?
You do. Yeah. This is not a training program. This is a mentoring program. And so, what's your name? Mahadi. So Mahadi asked, do you have to have a project? The answer is yes, right? We're here to mature your startup. And so the criteria are, like most accelerators, you need a 2-headed team. We want to have a commercial lead, and we want to have a technical lead, right? So a hustler and a hacker, right? If you don't have a hustler and a hacker, you're not ready yet. Doesn't mean you won't be at some point. And there's a lot of other things for you to go to learn. But we're here to take your business to the next level.
Yeah, so I was just thinking of a way to complement what you learn in B school, which is very fundamental and theoretical,
Yes.
with something applicable that's
Okay.
of
Right.
startup companies and the real challenges they face
So-
outside of guest speaker series and
Absolutely. So where do you go to school?
services.
Syracuse. Okay. So what I would say is we should. I've been a professor. I've been teaching in MBA programs, including MIT, for 20 years.
Yeah.
We'll have an offline discussion around that. There's a lot of things I can share with you about that. Okay. Cool. Good stuff. Yeah, please. I'm going to be lead mentor. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to be lead mentor. I'm trying not to, but yeah, this is a labor of love for me, right? I mean, I was asked to do this, and this is, it's going to be a blast. So yes.